This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wóokiye. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This segment of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life.
Wow, right on. Hey, joining us are two members from the Dakota Language Nest, and I want to say a big Pinigigi thank you for coming on, and please introduce yourself.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having us. My name is Wóokiye. My English name is Katie Bendixson. I am Assistant Wapatan Dakota.
Šišókadut IápiOkhódakičhiye. It's my Dakota name. English name is Joe Bendixson. I'm also a board member, advisory board member of the Dakota Language Nest.
Wow, welcome. And I know you two from the community, and it's really exciting to have you both on. And not only are you pioneers in the language and real leaders in the language, but real leaders in the community. So I want to just say a big pinigi having you both on tonight. Let's get started. I want you to tell me a little bit about the Dakota Language Nest and what ages of children do you teach, and where is this located?
Yeah, so the Dakota Language Nest, also known as Dakota IápiOkhódakičhiye, it's located at the University of Minnesota Early Childhood Development School Lab, and it's 921 17th Avenue Southeast in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
That's awesome. And I think I said Lakota, and I meant to say Dakota, and I apologize. When did the nest open?
So it opened in September 2022. We got funding from the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council to open the nest, and this is our third year now, and we're really excited that we can help teach the children the Dakota language.
That's exciting. How does early exposure to Dakota language support a child's culture and identity with a growth?
Yeah. Do you want to answer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the children would be learning a second language in addition to English typically. So learning a second language that early in their development really helps their growth and their language learning capacity, and also just helps them in general.
Yep.
Yeah, more than just learning one language when they're growing up. And
Haley,
and their identity shows, it teaches them who they are. And also within the language, there's a lot to learn just from how we speak Dakota and our worldview. Therefore, they're getting that when they're learning their language.
Awesome. Hey, Haley, do you think you could take the next couple questions here? I got to jump off for just a second.
Sure. Yeah. I got my hot seat here.
Oh, thank you so much,
sure.
you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. So I know a little bit about just Dakota language from a couple of my friends and community here. And it's really great, and we're grateful to partner with Little Moments Count to have great guests like you guys on. And teaching our youth is so important for our next generations. Yes. How does the Dakota Language Nest teach the Dakota language while also honoring your tradition, your traditions of Dakota people?
Yeah, we are an immersion daycare. So the immersion nest is a place where there is no English spoken all day during the day for the children to be there, and so we use a lot of visuals and gestures, and the context really helps the children to understand what's going on. Plus, they're really young, and so they just naturally are really susceptible to understanding.
And to add to that, the also incorporate some of our cultural traditions, like singing, drum, smudge. Nice. There's a lot of outside play and cultural objects in the language nest. So we try to incorporate as much of that into the curriculum as possible.
That's awesome. And I know you guys mentioned immersion kind of daycare program. This isn't really in our lineup of questions, but how old of students, like how old can students be to come to the Dakota Language Nest?
3 to 5.
3 to 5
year olds. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Great. And this is just kind of a out there question too, with smudging. As a Ho-Chunk person such as I am, we like to use a lot of flat cedar. Do Dakota people use kind of different traditional medicines in their smudging?
We typically use pejijota, which is sage, and it's our native Minnesota sage that we prefer to use.
Awesome. That's awesome. And it's really important to kind of teach kids like the safety of smudging and the whole spiritual practice of it and the importance around that. So thank you for doing that with our young ones. How do you see the Dakota language revitalization movement as a response to the forced assimilation of the boarding school era?
Well, I think, the boarding school era did a lot of damage to our language. And my parents didn't pass on the language to me because of that. And I think my partner, Wóokiye, is the same way. And I think a lot of people our generation didn't get to grow up speaking our language. Mm-hmm. And so now we have to reverse that, and you teach it to the little ones. But as adults, too, we have the responsibility to learn, because who's going to teach the children? We have to become the teachers. So we have to become speakers ourselves so we can work in these daycare and other places, schools, and teach it. And then not only that too, but we have to use it at home. I think that's kind of one of the major things we try to hammer home with the parents is, hey, use this at home with your children, because you'll reinforce what they're learning at the school, at the language nest.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's kind of like everyone's responsibility to help carry that knowledge and that language up to our younger generations. I know we have like a minute until we go into our first break here. This last question quickly. Can you share any personal or community stories about how the boarding school era affected your own family's language and culture? I know you said that you didn't grow up learning that. Maybe we can touch on it after the break too, but...
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, my grandmother was in a boarding school in Rapid City, South Dakota, and when she finally was allowed to come back home, she got off the train, and when she spoke to her grandfather, she was speaking English, but he was only speaking Dakota, and she realized she couldn't understand him anymore. And so she made it kind of her goal to relearn her language. Unfortunately, because of the trauma she faced, she didn't teach her children, so I didn't learn. But now I'm making the effort to learn my language.
Oh, I like that. I love that you're doing that and incorporating that in your life now. It's kind of a similar story with me. You're listening to Native Roots Radio, and this is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count, and we're here with members from the Dakota Language Nest, and we'll be right back after this quick break.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count. Nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days, and small moments of interaction like talking, playing, reading, and singing can help create the pathway that build a child's brain during this early stage of life. For more information, you can visit littlemomentscount.org. It's producer Haley Cherry here on Native Roots Radio, and I'm joined by a couple members of the Dakota Language Nest here in Minnesota, and we're talking a little bit, touching on the last question before we went to break there. I don't know, could you guys introduce yourselves again in a good way? I really love hearing the Dakota language.
You go first.
Dakota IápiOkhódakičhiye Wóokiye Katie Bendixson IápiOkhódakičhiye Damakota Sisituan Wachpetuan Hematahaye. My Dakota name is Wóokiye. My Washiju name is Katie Bendixson, and I am Dakota. I'm from Sisseton, Wahpeton, Oyate.
Dakota IápiOkhódakičhiye Wóokiye Šišókadut IápiOkhódakičhiye Dakota Betukinde Dakota IápiOkhódakičhiye Wóokiye.
Thank you. Pina Kiki, both of you for being here with me this evening. That last question we were touching on, I don't know if we got into hearing about your family member coming back from boarding school and not being able to understand other relatives. Are there any other personal or community stories about how the boarding school era affected your own family's language and culture?
Well, one of the people I work with today, one of my older brothers, he was an adopted brother. He is from Canada, and he talks about how they would come and take the children away during the 60s scoop. And not a lot of people know about what the 60s scoop is, but I think you probably heard of it. And they would adopt the children into communities far away from their homelands, and that happened to a lot of his family members, and so they lost their language. Some of his own siblings can no longer speak, or they do speak, but they have, not as much knowledge as him because he didn't end up going to boarding school.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know so many people in our community, and maybe almost everyone that we run into kind of has similar stories like that. Mm-hmm. Moving on, what's the connection between the Dakota Language Nest, the University of Minnesota, and the Dakota homelands?
Mm-hmm. Well, the University of Minnesota is a land grant institution, so, that was unceded Dakota land, and so they have a responsibility to help with the Dakota language. And working with the Child Lab Development School, the person we work with her name is Sheila Williams Ridge. She's been amazing. She's been a full support of what we're doing. She's been to other places to see language nests, like Hawaii for one, and then, has helped us develop this language nest. And I think Dakota Language also has a Dakota language major, the first Dakota language major in the country. I used to teach at the Dakota Language at the University of Minnesota for 14 years. I recently left to become editor of Dakota Language Dictionary, and now I think there's a strong partnership because now some of the students who are in the Dakota Language program can become student teachers at the Language Nest and put the things they learn in the classroom into practical use right away at the Language Nest.
Okay, great. Thank you. I know you mentioned a little bit on kind of like the dictionary. Can you share more about your work specifically on the Dakota Language Dictionary app and how it's helping preserve the language for future generations?
Oh, yeah. So right now I'm in the middle of an expansion of the dictionary. So we've already released it in 2023. And so we're adding example sentences, and we're also going to conjugate the verbs. And so then the students will be able to see a full conjugation of all the verbs and example sentences to see how the words are used. And also I'm recording elders, and when I do these recordings, I find words that are not in the dictionary, and then we can add those to the dictionary. So we're trying to do as much as we can to preserve as many words as possible, because we know once the elders are gone, they will take the language with them.
Yeah, really, really good points. I know I kind of rely on our Ho-Chunk language dictionary a lot. I don't know why I should. There are language classes out there, but I rely on the language app a lot because I have my phone on me all the time, and it's easy to just pull it up. And what I find really great about our language app is that they have recordings of elder female speaking the word or the language, and then an example of an elder male kind of speaking it. So you can hear both ways and how it's pronounced. And I really appreciated that. How does the Dakota Language Nest make sure that all families can participate regardless of income?
There's scholarships available there, and the price in general is it's not too bad generally.
Yeah,
I think per month it's like $620 some maybe.
Yeah, okay. So it's well priced.
Okay, how do people, how many people would you say, like guesstimating, would receive a scholarship for like
everyone gets the scholarship, so they all pay the same price.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty affordable because most daycares cost over $1,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really important that it's inclusive to all of our relatives. So thank you for having that. What resources or tools does the Dakota Language Nest provide to help parents continue learning the language at home?
There's a weekly class specifically for the parents that they go, and also we kind of encourage the parents to go to it. It's not required, but we highly encourage the parents to attend those classes.
Mm-hmm. And they send out a weekly lesson plan, which details all the language that the kids are learning that week. Also, an organization I work for, we have free classes for the community, and we encourage other parents to sign up for those. But there's also a free class at the Minneapolis American Indian Center and other places that offer the language. And we always tell them, you should sign up for these classes because you'll be learning the language alongside your children.
Oh, I like that. So you kind of offer like in-house resources as well as other community resources that can be available to them. That's really cool. I spent some time teaching in different Montessori schools, and as a lead teacher, which I know one of you are in the classroom quite a bit. This question is directed kind of towards you, and I know you do some art teaching as well. You blend your art with teaching the Dakota language. How do you use the art to make language learning more accessible and engaging, especially for children who are ages 3 to 5 years old?
Yeah, I'm an illustrator. I illustrate children's books, specifically Dakota language children's books. I have one that's been published. It's a counting book. It's a math book for early learners. It's a monolingual book, and I have others that I'm working on as well. that book can be found at www.dakota.org.
Awesome. What's the title of that one?
It's What's for Lunch.
Wóokiye IápiOkhódakičhiye.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the mural project at the Dakota Language? I know we just have a couple minutes until we wrap up, but this mural project at the Language Nest, how does that reflect your connection to language and culture?
Right. I'm working on a mural at the early childhood development lab school. It's in a common area in the hallway, and it depicts a multi-generational family speaking Dakota, and the subject is talking about a winter count, and it's talking about, and in the winter count, it's about the Dakota Language Nest and the Dakota language and the future of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this evening on Native Roots Radio. It was a pleasure to speak with you both and get to know your work. And thank you so much, Pinagigi, for kind of leading the way for our next generation to, just be more connected with culture and tradition and carry that forward for all 7 generations ahead. Thank you.
Yep.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Okay, you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.